Hello and welcome back to My Mom's Basement and a surprise Revenge of the 5th or 6th, depending on which day you're listening to this, episode of My Mom's Basement with Robbie Fox and my co-host for the day, Jeff D Lowe. We are here to talk about The Phantom Menace and the 25th anniversary re-release of The Phantom Menace. It did really, really well. More
Yeah.
people saw it than I suspected. Made over 8 million domestically, over 15 million worldwide. Second highest grossing re-release of the past decade. The first was Avatar 2022. And it's now back in the top 50 highest grossing movies of all time. It's 46. It's real narrow right at that like 50 mark. So pretty unbelievable. And we both saw it in theaters. You saw it out in LA. I saw it out in Jersey. It was a good time.
Yeah, I will never take for granted seeing a Star Wars movie in theaters, even if it's something that I think is going to be dumb. Did I see Solo twice? No, I did not. I did not see Solo twice in theaters. Either. But any trilogy movie, and I'm sure I'll think this one day if they re-release like The Rise of Skywalker, which I don't really like at all. And I like to be like, I mean, I'll just say I really, this movie stinks. This movie sucks. Like it is what it is. Like I don't have the love for it that some people do. I love Clone Wars. I guess Rebels doesn't connect as much, but I love Clone Wars. I love all the prequel stuff in terms of animated. But for me, it hasn't made this movie any better. Like, and made some of the characters like cooler and other stuff. But with that said, I still had a lot of fun watching it. Like, I if they re-released it next week, I would like see it again. Yeah. I saw it 10 years ago when they released it in 3D.
I didn't do the 3D one because I can't do 3D. You saw me in Disney, 3D glasses. Yeah, it messes me up for like 24 hours. I got to do Dramamine and all that. But I want to start there because I know how you feel about this movie. And I know how you feel about a lot of like different things in this movie. But for those who aren't aware, what is your relationship to The Phantom Menace? How old were you when it came out? Did you like it when it came out and your feelings changed over time? Like, what is your relationship to the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I was 8 when it came out.
So that seems like you were the perfect prime age for this movie.
Perfect. And I thought it was, I mean, I was always going to like no matter what at that age. And I think the more I went on and the more I watched it on VHS and stuff, the more I realized that I just didn't like watching it again that much. Like I just didn't enjoy it as much as the others. Like I never found myself watching it over and over again, where, the originals, endless rewatches. I think that was for me. When I first saw it, I loved it. I mean, remember, I thought Jar Jar was great.
Yeah.
There were two. The first toy that came out was the battle droid, like the standalone speeder, where he stands up on the speeder. I don't know what it's called. I should know that.
It's the Paul Blart Mall Cop
segue.
Yeah.
That toy was like the standalone, I believe, first toy released, and I got that. It was awesome, and the toys were incredible. I had the razor thing that really is like the comlink. It's like a Gillette razor.
Yeah, I had that. Yeah, I loved that.
You connected that. Yeah, it was awesome. I had all the toys. The Legos had come out a couple years prior for the originals. Like the Legos were a huge thing. It was amazing. I loved it. But then I think just like the older I got, the more I realized like oh, this kind of sucks. Like this is like it's not as fun. Like it's just not fun. That's the thing for me.
Well, it's funny because I have almost like an opposite experience. It was probably the VHS that I like played the most up until like Revenge of the Sith coming out. Like up until that point, it was probably as a kid my favorite Star Wars movie, and I would pretend to be Qui-Gon when I was like playing with my cousins. I had his lightsaber. I thought he was the coolest Jedi. Darth Maul was, of course, the coolest villain, but I would play it over and over again. Looking back, I now remember making my grandma get up and fast forward over and over and over because I wanted to see the opening. I wanted to see the part where Anakin is running in the desert and he has to drop because Darth Maul's coming in. I wanted to see the pod race, and I wanted to see the final scene. There was like 4, maybe 5 scenes in that movie that I was watching over and over again. But the rest of it, and even seeing it in theaters, I love this movie. I'm so nostalgic about it. I'm one of those people who grew up with it, so I love it. Even seeing it in theaters for the 100th time, but first time ever in theaters, it was like, this is a little boring. Like right after the pod race, oh my God, it hits a slog for a while where you start actually talking about the taxation of the trade routes and all right, we're going to have a committee investigate this. anytime Chancellor Valorum is on screen, it's pretty fucking boring.
It's then that's where like it's definitely made for kids with kids in mind in some parts. And that's why I think I enjoyed it. But then that's why I think I also stopped enjoying it so quickly, is because it'd be one thing if it was like kids stuff, like a Pixar movie, right? Where like there's some kid stuff, right? But then maybe when you get older, it's like, okay, the kid stuff isn't as like amazing to me anymore, or it's still great, but like there's some more stuff in here. Like there's some references, or there's some, larger themes that they're trying to explore that you're like, you appreciate more as an adult. This, like, once the kid stuff wears off, it's like, oh my God, this is so boring. It's
There are
bad
no
space
larger
politics.
themes like that. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's just like it's bad. Like the kind of the irony is everyone talks about how George Lucas like stole Dune from Frank Herbert, and Dune, Denis Villeneuve with Dune, the movies, is he tried to take the space politics out of it. He's like, because you read the Dune book, it's like the stuff happens off screen. It's like if you're playing the book out in your head as a movie, the Dune action like happens off screen, and that's what when they came out with the one in 1984 or whatever, like that movie had that stuff. Like a lot of stuff happened off camera, and that's what this movie feels like, and that's what this whole trilogy feels like. Not to get into Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, but so many things. I think of the line when Obi-Wan and Anakin are stepping off the speeder at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, after the 95-minute long opening scene, is they step off and he goes, like, for that one time you saved me, or whatever. He goes, well, we're not going to talk about that. They say like 3 or 4 different things that they did. I'm like, where's that? Let's see that.
That could have been the trilogy. Yeah.
Like that, which is what Clone Wars ended up being, which is great. It was awesome. So yeah. That again, that's the thing. It's like this. Once the kid stuff wore off for me, I quickly had nothing to latch on to. I thought Jar Jar getting the apple or whatever, the fruit with his tongue, was so fucking funny. And then like I grew up 2 years later, and I was like, well, now I don't care about taxation. This isn't fun.
Would you rank this dead last in your Star Wars rankings?
At this point, probably not. I think I've moved over the last like year or two. I've moved Attack of the Clones a hair below. They're almost tied. Attack of the Clones is pretty bad.
I like this one better than Attack of the Clones. I think this one has a little more.
It looks better too.
Like it looks better, a little more redeeming qualities. It has probably a better score. Although the Attack of the Clones, the love theme between Anakin,
I do love the love theme.
I think pretty good.
Love theme might be my favorite of the trilogy, but that's not enough to bring it above. Attack of the Clones, I just don't like it. Just looks off. Like it's so CG. It's all so green screen, blue screen, and this one really wasn't. This one, I'll tell you what. You and I have talked about this plenty. I don't know if we ever talked about it in the same like platform together, but the behind the scenes for the Phantom Menace, I think, changed behind the scenes for the history of movies, because no one ever got that much access after that, because it's 2 hours of embarrassment it's like you just see how the movie
so fascinating and captivating. Yeah. And
in that, you see how much of this was real. Like they went to great lengths to make it look real. And that's why like the J.J. Abrams, like everything is practical now, really was a shot at the second and third, because this one, like for the most part, it was practical. Like they did an amazing job.
They went through the sandstorm they show in that, where the entire town that they built for Tatooine was like half demolished and they had to rebuild it mid-set. A lot of Naboo is just Italy, and that continues a little bit in 2, but 2 doesn't spend as much time there as this one does.
The ship name is the STAP, the STAP. Even like the ships weren't fun. Like AT-AT Walker, AT, like those are like this toy. I'll send you the link. And the other thing too, the toy that you got, it came on like a clear pedestal, and the droid didn't sit right on it. Like it was the perfect sign of like what's to come. It was
all of those battle droid toys didn't sit right. They were all way too flimsy, and like George said, like they were like butter. They would fall like butter as well. What was your favorite part of like the marketing campaign? Even like looking back now, because I wasn't alive for the marketing I was alive, but I was like 1.
Easy. My sister got me an original one from eBay not long ago. It was the Yum Brands, KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut. They did the thing where you get the top there'd be two like tokens at the top of a cup or whatever you buy from. And you, by the way, I wore my robe in honor of the Jedi today. It's like really hot in here. I did not need to wear a robe. You would pop it off. It'd be like Mace Windu, and Yoda were like, if you got those two, you won like
Were they like
$25,000.
hexagons? Is that what you're talking about? They
The
were like the clear hexagons, or no?
were
That's
for Attack of the
different.
Clones.
Okay.
And those came in like Dorito bags and like Pepsi
Yes,
products.
I liked those, so
Those
I
were
got to
cool too.
experience that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that so KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut. I'll just read you what the prices were. It came on like you got like a map, almost like a Monopoly board, basically. And you were trying to get all the pieces for it, and you would win things depending on what you got. It was like, yeah, defeat the dark side and win. One of them was Battle for Naboo, collect game medallions to win $1 million. So actually, that was a tough one. That was like all, it was like Qui-Gon, Darth Maul. Another one was 10,000. Another one was $1 million. Another one was $1 million. And then it was Mace and Yoda. You could win like 1,000, which like a lot of people got. So that's right. So that was one that was like easier to get.
And they were also
you tried
doing
to
the cup
those tokens and
toppers,
fill up the board.
and they had all the cup toppers, right?
And they had the cup toppers too. Yep.
Those are hysterical. I mean, the Darth Maul one, people always say like he didn't realize in the moment, but it was a spoiler. And speaking of spoilers, what different culture it was in 1999, where the novelization came out a couple weeks before the movie, and the soundtrack was out like the week before.
Yeah.
And everyone just flipped to the back, looked at the track list, and it said like "Death of Qui-Gon." And I was like,
yeah.
Oh well, fuck.
It's like basically a Qui-Gon died.
Qui-Gon's funeral or something. You know, it's like, oh man, yeah, you didn't have to like put that in the track list, but that's crazy to me. I do remember even getting the Revenge of the Sith video game before the movie came out and being like, oh my God, this is like a preview of what we're going to see, isn't it? And it really fucking was.
I don't know if they did that with Attack of, I think Attack of the Clones was the case too, though. I think.
Very strange that they would do that back then. And like, I guess just the internet wasn't as much of a thing, so it didn't get as widespread. But that seems like a massive spoiler. Like, if I was going into the Phantom Menace, I would think like Liam Neeson's gonna fucking lead this whole trilogy. He's gonna be the Obi-Wan. Well, I guess if he's the Obi-Wan, he dies in the first one. But you know what I'm saying.
I've never really had a movie fully spoiled for me.
I don't know if
Austin Powers and Goldmember. Somebody spoiled the beginning.
That it was like
Tom Cruise
the parody movie.
Yeah. No, actually, no. People sent us. We got sent. Someone spammed myself and Ken Jack Avengers Endgame videos. So we saw like a quick portal shot like a week before.
I think I got some shit spoiled for me in one of the Marvel movies recently. And I was, you know what it was? I think I got some of the Multiverse of Madness stuff spoiled for me. I think I got like Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic or something. I think it might have been some of that stuff. But yeah, crazy. By the way,
the commercial for this was the Chihuahua Colonel Sanders and then just like a Pizza Hut delivery girl, and they were on Naboo getting ready to go into battle. The marketing campaign with the food places were the best. That's what I remember the most.
The marketing campaign was incredible, and I look at now one of my favorite things ever is Marfalump, the Pepsi tie-in alien that they had ILM design. He's literally just like, they give him a little backstory. He was adopted by a human family in Iowa, and he just loves Star Wars and Pepsi. And they had, of course, the Pepsi machines, which still pop up in the wild every now and then. You'll see them on Reddit. And the whole line of like Pepsi, was it Pepsi Diet, Pepsi, and Mountain Dew drinks that you could collect all of them. And I think Steve Che collected all of them and like brought them into Barstool. And we had them for a while. Yeah.
We still have them, I think, somewhere. I think I stored them there because I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah. So somewhere in the Barstool storage, we have like a set of Phantom Menace Pepsi cans that are all empty. Look, I think he put like a pin in the bottom of all of them to clean them out, which I never would have thought of. But yeah, we have Steve Che's collection of those. Those
are last on the list of being sold for a lot of money one day.
They're not going to get sold for a lot of money. Also, the action figures. There's a new collectible store in the mall in Jersey City, and I went in there just to be like, oh shit, what do they got? They had some Phantom Menace figures, all still $5 a piece. Like everyone.
When I redid my office in New York, and I have them in boxes here in California, because one day I'll set it up. I'm gonna move to a house or something. But when I went to redo my collection, really all of them were just as cheap as could be. The Attack of the Clones,
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith stuff is horrible. They were horrible because at least the Phantom Menace, they kept the box similar to what it used to
Yep.
be, like the old Kenner, and they eventually went back to that with the sequels. But oh man, they were so cheap. I could replace
The
everything for
Clones
nothing.
boxes are huge. They're bulky, and then the Phantom Menace boxes are all the curved Darth Vader head shape, right? Yeah, I like the Phantom Menace ones the best.
Oh yeah,
Out of
it
the
was
two
traditional.
especially. And like you said, they had the little things that you could put into the fucking
Yep.
woman's razor, and then you get the little noise and everything. Favorite ridiculous characters. There's a lot in the Phantom Menace. There's the obvious ones, the famous ones, the Wattos, the Newt Gunray, named after Newt Gingrich. Then the ones that we kind of like, the Ben Quadraneros, C.O. Bibble. We mentioned Anakin's little friend who calls things wizard and says yippee and stuff. His name's Kitster Benai. You think he ever got an action figure? I bet he did at some point.
That I would have that one if he did. So I would have bought that. I don't know if he did.
I mean, it's safe to assume if he's a Star Wars character, he has one. But
also the other
oh my god, I don't think he has one.
The other Neimoidian was Lot Dodd, named after Chris Dodd, the Connecticut senator. So he did a double political reference.
He apparently wanted to name Palpatine Richard Nixon back in the day. I think he like mentioned that to someone, like just like take first and last name. Richard Nixon is Palpatine's real name, and I think they were like, George, you can't fucking do that. Like, I think that's going to take people out of the movie.
It says there's a Kitzer toy. I don't know if this is like custom made though.
I'm looking at images right now and I see nothing. Absolutely nothing. I see like,
yeah, this looks like they painted an Anakin toy.
They made Anakin, and they made Anakin from the end of the movie when they give him the little braid.
That be my worst character? Braid Anakin at the end of the movie.
They also they sold a braid around the Phantom Menace. You could just buy a braid, and it was like Star Wars branded. There was that. There was the Jar Jar lollipop that it's his tongue. Just sticks his tongue right into your mouth.
Yeah, that's a great one. Great viral one. People still are blown away that existed.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Worst weird character. It is. I'm scrubbing through right now on Disney Plus. It is crazy, and that was another thing that I always forget is that they are in Gungan City 15 minutes into that movie.
Yeah, pretty quick. And you don't meet Anakin until like 45 minutes in.
C.O. Bibble's a pretty tough character. The Naboo, he's really annoying. He's kind of sneaky. There's a couple really annoying characters, and Jar Jar obviously takes the cake. But C.O. Bibble is like a loser, and like just kind of like he's like the advisory council to the Queen, or like a governor or whatever. Just horrible.
He has one scene that's such bad delivery when he sends the message onto the ship where he's like, you got to get back here. You got to send us a message or whatever. And Obi-Wan's like, it's bait. Don't fucking send him a message back. That whole like distress call that he puts on, I guess he's supposed to be like a sniveling, like he's not really doing the best acting job. It's just so cringeworthy every time. And also some of the things that they point out in the Plinkett review, which of course is one of the most classic, like Phantom Menace fans or non-fans love it, from Red Letter Media. Once you watch that, you can't watch the Phantom Menace the same way again, because every single time I watch the movie now, and the decoy Keira Knightley character is like, hey, go clean up that droid to Padme Amidala, like the real fucking queen. I'm like, what? In what world would she be like, hey, go clean that fucking thing up? There's so many scenes like that. I mean, even all the C.O. Bibble scenes, hey, we're making her sign the treaty, and you have to force her. You have to get her to this part of the city. It's like, why don't you just forge the treaty? If you're making her sign it by will, whatever. But all of that stuff, you have to think about it. Kind of hard to understand it, but if you think about it too hard, you understand that like it all falls apart. It doesn't really all make sense. It's kind of a house of cards.
Yeah, it's so overly complicated. I mean, the first Star Wars is so fucking simple. All the first three are also simple. Like they're so straightforward. Like the only confusing thing in the first 3 movies is when he goes back into the woods in Empire Strikes Back, and
Yeah.
he's like the vision of Vader. Like that's which they joke about in the Family Guy Star Wars. Is like it's kind of confusing. It stops the movie dead. Like it doesn't. It's amazing. Like I love
It
that
always
scene.
confused the hell out of me as a kid.
Well, yeah,
I couldn't understand, like, why that was Luke's face.
right, exactly. But this stuff is just it's just such a mess of like them, the blockade, the invasion, the senators, and like who they're going to talk to. They're just obviously it's an expansion of the universe. There's a lot more characters because they're allowed to do it. They had the money, they had the room to do it. Yeah, I just the Naboo stuff should be awesome, and for me, it's just so bland. What does he say? Oh, you must contact me. And that's when he gets all like,
Yeah,
or no,
yeah, yeah,
Palpatine
yeah,
gets all
yes.
wide when the train, yeah.
Yeah,
And
when
then
he
even
gets
like e
busty
even
pals.
some of like the side characters, like Panaka's whatever. Like he's a kind of moody and like
Yeah.
miserable.
I would've liked to see more of him in the trilogy. They off him after this one. He's pretty
Who's the
much done.
other? Yeah, isn't it like his cousin comes in the next one?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, who's the pilot who's talking to Anakin in the first ship?
I have no idea what his name. I saw the movie yesterday, and I have no idea what his name is.
I think I think he's an Antilles, like he's like Wedge Antilles, but he's not.
Oh, is he?
I think I don't know. I'd have to go look at it. I get them all confused. But like, there's just so many weird like character name choices, and like just again, they're all kind of miserable and moody, and that's just I just don't. It's just not fun. Yeah, it's just not
Stoic. Everyone
fun.
in this movie is stoic, except for, like, Jar Jar, and he's over the top
Yeah.
non-stoic. But, like, Obi-Wan's kinda stoic. Qui-Gon is super stoic. Anakin is stoic not by, his writing or his, like, whatever. It's just, unfortunately, like, Jake Lloyd's acting is all just, like, one it's monotone, the whole thing. "Are you an angel?" It's a lot of
Oh,
that.
right. That's I think my big thing is like again, I had fun watching it. I enjoy Star Wars. That's why I like it.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
like the content itself is not fun. Someone I actually didn't realize was in it. Was Dominic West, who's in The Crown. He plays he's in like a lot of scenes of The Crown. He plays what's his face? He plays fucking the king in The Crown. He plays
King Charles?
Charles. He plays the
Who's
older
he in Phantom Menace?
he plays the older he's just like a background character.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I didn't know that. He plays the older Charles, like a Diana. It's just the same. He's just the same like lines all the time. Yeah, I didn't know
Pretty
he was. I
sure,
didn't know he was in it.
Warwick Davis has 2 roles in this. He's, like, spotted during the Boonta Eve Classic, and he's Little Greedo Man, right? For one of Anakin's friends?
Yeah, he Wald is his Rodian
Yeah.
character name, and then the other character, he's just like he's one of Watto's like degenerate buddies with a
I
really
think he
bad
said he
wig.
showed up to set that day, and, like, George was like, "What are you doing here?" And he was like, "I have a day off, I just wanted to watch." And George was like, "No, you don't get to do that, like, go make yourself look different and send it to wardrobe." I'm pretty
His
sure
name is
that's the story behind
his
it.
character is in Solo, right?
Yeah, they brought him back for Solo,
His
which
name's like
is, like,
Rat Man or something.
so bizarre that they were like
Weasel. There it is. Yeah.
Weasel, yeah, they were like, Call up Warwick and let's not, like, make him a new alien. Let's just do the one from Phantom Menace that
What
people will remember." Like,
what changed his mind? Like, how did he become? He went from a scumbag to like
yeah.
we're gonna fix the
He's
galaxy like
he
rebel.
saw the Empire for what they were, I don't know.
Yeah, like what? It was that race. He
Yeah, the
like all
Boonta
his
Eve
friends.
Classic, he saw, like, people turn it was like Rocky 4 for Tatooine. They were like, you know,
What's the?
if I
We'll
could
get to.
change
I'm sure we'll get to pod racing in a second. I have a very funny question in pod racing that I'd love to. I didn't look up on purpose. I figured we'd look it up while we're here.
Okay.
But yeah, that's there's so many bad characters in this. I don't like Seo Bibble for me. I think it'd be my least favorite, just simply because he defines the attitude and the mood of all the like. And I know they're being invaded, like they're being invaded, like it sucks. But there's just such a grouchy, grumpy attitude, and it just kind of
Yeah,
sets the vibe for the movie. Like everyone kind of hates each other in this movie.
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
Obi-Wan kind of hates Qui-Gon. He's like, you're an idiot, dude.
yeah. They have to, like,
Obi-Wan's
make
just
up
not
by
in
the
it.
end of the movie before Qui-Gon dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing that they point out in the Plinkett review that I always come back to is that this movie just doesn't have a main character, which makes it
Yeah.
very like that makes it hard to follow a little bit disjointed where it's like, is it Obi-Wan? No, he's not in the movie nearly enough. Is it Qui-Gon? Maybe, but not like no. Like, I don't think so. Is it Anakin? He's takes 45 minutes to meet him, and then he doesn't have much of an effect until the very end when he blows everything up. He's the biggest Mary Sue in Star Wars in that moment.
Mhm.
But I guess he's the chosen one, you know? That's pod racing.
Yeah, it's the story, I guess, is like the Force is the main character. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, there really
I
isn't
also
anything deep.
always forget that like Samuel L. Jackson has absolutely nothing to do in this movie.
Yeah, and they're grumpy as fuck too. That's the other thing. Like
Yeah.
they're in a like they're all moody. It's like that's the thing. It's like there's nothing. You stoic's a good word. They're very stoic, but they're also just so down and negative about everything. You're like, oh my god. Like I
Yeah.
know the galaxy sucks, but even for like the Jedi, galaxy ain't bad for you. It's you walk all around like cock of the walk. Nothing's wrong. So I don't know what you're all
Yeah.
upset about.
You know what's fucking sad too, every time I watch the movie, when Anakin has to leave his mom, knowing what happens to his mom, especially, like, 2 makes that even sadder, and he
Yeah.
goes back and gives her the hug, and he doesn't wanna leave her, and then as soon as he gets to the Jedi Council, this kid is, like, 9 years old, just ripped from his mother's arms, his slave
Mhm.
mother's arms. And they're like, "This kid's fucking still thinking about that mom. What the fuck?" And they're
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely.
there's 2 seconds ago, like, I think we could still train the kid. And Mace is like, I don't fucking think so. Misses his mom. Misses his mom. It's been an hour, hasn't it? And he still misses his mom. I don't think so.
It's the way I guess too that they treat him, they treat him like meat. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing too is they
Just
like
for a midichlorian count.
yeah, like he and that's where it loses so much of like the charm of the Jedi too is that like it's boiled down to a number. Like
Yeah.
he's just a freak. Like that's just all he is. And he's given a little bit of personality, right? Like, you know, the pod racing and all that. But even in like the part of the movie where I think you'd want to maybe build up more of that kid and more of that character, he's silent driving a car. He's just driving
Yeah.
like a race
True.
car. That's basically what he's doing.
Yeah. You're
Um,
just showing he's, like,
again,
super skilled, I guess, to set up for him being able to blow up the Death Star, the mini Death Star at the end of the movie, but, like, yeah, there's not which maybe you're hiding that. Maybe at some point you're like, okay, Jake Lloyd has his limitations. Let's make the pod racing scene 20 minutes long. That's the pod racing scene. I love it. And I loved it as a kid. And it's the perfect scene for merchandise and toys
mhm.
and video games and all that. So I get it. But watching it like now, eventually you're like, okay, I get it. Like I'm not here for a racing movie, and it becomes a racing movie for like a long time.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up Boon to Eve classic results. I've never looked
Nice.
this up, which
Okay.
is shocking.
There's gonna be
Um,
a lot of did not finish. I noticed that at the end. Is Anakin the only one that finished at the end?
Less people died than I thought.
They give a lot of people the spin out after the pods are, very smartly constructed where the front half will explode into smithereens and then Sebulba will like spin out.
There's some really funny notes here, but I'll continue what you just said there. The pod racing scene is absurdly long, but so much I think back to Anakin of what's wrong with Anakin in that character is it's a product of the Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon mess too, which I don't really know actually the backstory too much in this. I only know this a little bit from um the Weekly Planet. They do their caravan of garbages and they do like their long breakdowns. They talked about how the plan originally was not for Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, which you can tell because
Yeah.
Obi-Wan just doesn't do it. Like they're like, stay at the ship. Just
Yeah.
stay there. Don't
They
move.
call him trying to see, like, if they could sell the wardrobe for, money for the parts or
Yeah.
something, and he's like, "I
And
don't
so it's
think
like
there's enough in there."
little moments like that going back to him, the back forward, it takes away from probably what should just be Obi-Wan, honestly.
Yeah,
Like like I like Qui-Gon and I love that Liam Neeson does that role, but it's unnecessary and it takes away probably from developing Anakin more and like whatever,
and
like you said, like when he
developing
says
their
he
relationship too. If the
right.
whole trilogy is gonna be built around you're eventually gonna get to them fighting and that being heartbreaking, You got to do something for that to be heartbreaking.
And it starts off, he's a burden that he hates because he's only doing it because he wants to do it for Qui-Gon. So I just think that all probably could have been played out a little better. Just the movie's overstuffed. Here's the results of the Boon to Eve.
Okay.
First place, Anakin.
Yep.
Second place, Gascano. One of my favorite characters as a kid.
Which one is Gascano? I'm gonna have to like put faces to some of these alien.
Really tall, long neck.
Okay, that's who I thought you were. Yeah, that's exactly.
I had that toy. I love the pod.
Describing. I always wanted Anakin's helmet in this too, and I loved the like blue, yellow, and red buttons that he has to hit to set everything up and flip the switches and stuff. Yeah, I always wanted that as like a toy or something. Just that command center.
Aldar Beto is the next one. Not a character anyone really knows. I don't even know if they show that character, honestly. Fourth place is Ebe Endicott. Another character they don't really show.
These names are incredible.
Another one is Elon Musk, which I'm not sure. It sounds like a reference to Elon Musk. Yeah, another character I don't think I've ever seen till this moment. And then the sixth place finisher is Bull's Roar.
Bull's Roar
is another character I've never seen before.
Yeah,
and then everyone else didn't finish.
There's like one little screenshot of his ship. I'm not even sure if it's from the movie or if it's from something else.
Yeah, there's a bunch. There's another one, Mahonic, that's the Gran character with the three eyes.
Yeah,
so that's a character we saw a couple times.
They were flexing that alien in this movie. I feel like they figured out a new like way to make the eyes move, and they were throwing that in the background of a bunch of scenes.
There's a couple other ones that we see. There's Tinto Pagalis. That's the one with the circle pod that like spins around and gets shot. So we saw that.
Yeah.
The bulb, obviously. Rats Terrell. That's the one that dies.
Oh yeah.
In the cave.
It crashes hard in the cave. He sees the thing coming and he's like, ah!
And there's a really elaborate deleted scene where it's a significantly longer introduction of the pod race, and they show his whole family with kids and everything.
Oh no.
And then they kill him.
Too dark, George.
Yeah.
Pull that one back.
Obviously, everyone knows Ben Quadraneros looks like a big vagina.
Nick Tirani's favorite Star Wars character. A little fun fact for everyone there.
Yeah, he loves Ben
Quadraneros. I think he owns like a Topps like signed card somehow, signed by Ben or something. I don't know how Ben signed it, but he signed it.
And then Dud Bolt, which is the one that looks like an alligator. That's the other one. So
yeah, one of my favorite Lego sets growing up as well. I had the Pod Racer set. It came with Anakin, Sebulba, and someone else. It came with it was a green Pod Racer. I'm not sure which one it was.
Odie Mandrell, that's the other one. I forgot. He's got the great pit crew. That's what they say.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no,
they're not that great when it comes down to it. I don't think they're the best.
No. The Anakin pod Lego was awesome. That was another good one.
Yeah. And people love this was Ayla Secura, right? You see her on the ridge shooting her. She's not shooting, but she's just standing there. People freaked out about that. She was almost like the Phasma of this movie, I think, for people at the time. Like, oh shit. And she didn't do anything.
Do you mind the Jabba? I kind of like the Jabba cameo.
I like the Jabba cameo. Well, I like I picture being there on opening night, not knowing they're about to say it, and then being like, it's run by the Hutts, them saying that about Tatooine. That little piece of fan service, I think is kind of cool. And they give Jabba, I think they give him like a wife sitting in the background.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's supposed to be his wife or his sister, but it looks like a girl Jabba. A girl Hutt.
Yeah, I like that they include it. It's not like it doesn't stop the movie dead in its tracks. It kind of just moves along, which scene is very long. So I do like that. I like the Bib Fortuna, all that.
I love the commentators. I think the commentators are funny. Them being like a Siamese alien talking back and forth to each other.
Foden's bead Anadu.
Yeah. Those guys are sick. Yeah.
It's Skywalker.
And the guy who plays Bib Fortuna in Phantom Menace is the guy who played Bib Fortuna in Book of Boba Fett. They actually brought that guy back. Yeah.
I didn't know that is pretty cool.
So here's one thing I wanted to bring up with you that people that don't know this about you, I think it might surprise them. A lot of people that don't like the Phantom Menace will actually say, I don't like the Phantom Menace except for the final lightsaber battle at the end, Duel of the Fates. That shit is sick. You, not so much. You don't love Duel of the Fates.
Music's unbelievable.
Yeah,
Gardula the
of
Hutt,
course.
by the
Yeah.
way. That's who it is.
Gardula? And
I should have
I
known
assume
that.
a girl, right?
I got to brush up on my Phantom Menace trivia names. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
she involved in Clone Wars? Is she the one that has Stinky?
I don't know if she has Stinky. I don't think she has Stinky.
Stinky the Hutt?
And then what's the Hutt that has the Cajun accent?
Oh, the Mincy the Hutt.
Yeah. Oh, Zero.
Zero. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, Jabba, boy. It's like, oh my God. What the fuck?
Yeah. That shit was weird.
What the hell? Yeah, no, Duel of Fates for me is not. Here's my problem with Duel of Fates. Amazing music. I like lightsaber duels to have like an emotional, meaningful connection to them. They just, I mean, Qui-Gon saw Darth Maul for 3.5 seconds on Tatooine.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, right? Like they had no run-ins.
No, and they didn't even talk. It was just on site as soon as they saw each other.
It's just on site. Like that's bad guy.
Guy looks like the devil.
Man.
Let's start swinging. Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks cool. Loved it as a kid, but the more I've gotten older, like it just doesn't mean anything to me. Like they're just which is fine.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have like that emotional first one, Obi-Wan Vader connection. Second one, obviously, is like he's avenging Obi-Wan. And then the third one is my favorite lightsaber duel is Return of the Jedi. I think it's the most raw emotion.
That and Empire neck and neck for me. The best moment is probably Luke freaking out when Vader mentioned Leia in Jedi.
Yep. Like there's so much there. And even like people bring up the sequels, even The Force Awakens, like yes, Rey
so good.
Fight. Like first off, I like that it's not over choreographed. But second of all, like she just tortured it. Like he just tortured her like 20 minutes ago. At least they met. Maul doesn't have that. So it's like they're just swinging at each other. And maybe that's like part of it is like he's just this brutal killer and doesn't care. But
devil's advocate, it doesn't really have emotion until Qui-Gon gets killed.
Sure, and that's when you
like
care.
From that moment on, yeah. Like the whole sequence where Obi-Wan's holding on, the saber moves, it's like kind of shot like Empire, how the saber moves in the snow and shit. Like that's pretty awesome.
I wish he would have died sooner. Because then it gives you something, right?
That's not a bad take, yeah.
Like if like that's part of it. It's very over choreographed. That's my main thing. It's like, it just looks like they're just practicing what they were told to do.
You know what's the nerdiest thought I had? When the laser gate opens after Qui-Gon's killed and Obi-Wan and Maul do the famous like back and forth where he goes back and he goes forward and he blocks it both ways on Maul. The thought I had sitting there in the theater was like, I should learn that for Star Wars Celebration one day, just do it in front of a crowd. And then I caught myself in that thought and I was like, oh man, that's pretty. As I was sitting there and, you know, my like Star Wars Disney shirt, my Star Wars Baby Yoda socks, and my Star Wars Vans, I was like, damn, this is pretty fucking nerdy. 10 a.m. movie.
Gotta do it.
Phantom Menace. I'll do it. I'll definitely do it. Like that would be so funny for a video if I like learned how to do it full speed. It'd be so funny.
I even like the big power things that block them from fighting. I think that's actually like I know that's, I'm sure someone could say, well, if you don't like that, you know, if you don't like the fight, why do you like that part? You know, it's just like
the environment's awesome.
It's
when
just
they
there to
make
like
it into that
movie,
room,
basically,
and it's just like the fucking massive energy beams. That's one of the coolest environments ever, and the room makes no like logistical sense. Once again, a room in Star Wars with no railings for no reason whatsoever, other than to make this fight scene like more exciting. But yeah,
yeah. I mean, I don't hate it. I just don't like. It's not like people like you said it perfectly. It's like I don't like it, but the fight's cool. But that just doesn't ring true for me.
Yeah. Do you think they run it back next year after seeing this did 15 million worldwide for the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith?
I don't know, because this one doesn't have for Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, next year's 20 years for that. They didn't do it for like you would have to skip Attack of the Clones. I don't know if they would care. You could do Attack of the Clones 25th in a couple years. But I saw these numbers and immediately was like, "Oh shit! How could you?"
No, because I think Disney and Lucasfilm were too anal to not do them in order.
Maybe they'll. Do you think they'll throw out like a double feature or something?
Maybe. That'd be
just
cool.
to just to get
Clone
there.
does not have the, um,
I don't think it has the nostalgia, right? Like, this has a
revisionist
nostalgia
nostalgia.
factor. Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't have that, and there are some things that I do quite like in Attack of the Clones,
Yeah.
but overall, it's just so much
The
worse.
Obi-Wan, subplot is pretty great for the most part.
Yeah, where he's just like
Him
like
after
just
Jango, them
yeah,
getting
just like
into
a
the
James Bond
dogfight and
mission.
the asteroid shit. Yeah. Like, that's mostly good.
Yeah, like the stuff on Tatooine's tough, and, like, the crying, it's the worst script of the 3 movies too.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though Revenge of the Sith pretty bad script too. There's some
But
tough,
you know
tough
what's
lines of
crazy
dialogue.
is there's some really tough like, famously bad dialogue in Revenge of the Sith, but still, I think it's so far and away the best. Like, from a movie standpoint, there's just something about it that actually works. Like,
Because
the
to
other
me
2, like, they work for me as Star Wars fans. I feel like Revenge of the Sith works for almost everyone that sees it, even though it's not, like, technically a good movie.
there's a time jump in it, but you also feel for me like there's the time jump between Phantom Menace and Echo is just too much. I
Yeah.
think you lose so much of that. And where
Anakin
I
feels so
think between Attack
disconnected.
of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, like I don't know, you can feel that connection a little more, and you kind of latch on and grasp to it easier.
Yeah, I think the
Um,
same actors helps a lot. Like, obviously, he's the same guy through the whole thing, but, like, getting Hayden back and getting Padme back in the same type of role, I feel like all that helped a lot.
it builds into it easier. Like I can connect to it
Yeah.
more.
Alright. Any other thoughts on Phantom Menace before we talk a little bit about, Bad Batch before we get out of here?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I guess I'm trying to think of other things that I mean, I wish the deleted scene with Greedo, I wish would have made it in the movie. It's so bad.
I was gonna say, I don't like the deleted scene with Greedo.
It's so stupid. It's like Greedo, don't be bad. One day you might
Yeah.
get shot over it. It's basically what they say. It's like,
Yeah. It's like a Muppet Baby Greedo, like, "Hey, by the
yeah,
way, we know who you're growing up into." It's not
uh,
as bad as, like, the thought of it wasn't a real filmed deleted scene, I don't think, but the thought of, like, Han Solo meeting Yoda in Revenge of the Sith. They were gonna go forward with that. Ugh, don't do
that'd have been
that.
really bad. And that actually, every time I hear that, I'm shocked that that was even an option.
There's, like, little concept art of, like, a young Han Solo just wearing his normal outfit, but it's smaller.
Um, oh, you know who's the worst character? Jira, the old lady who works in the town where Anakin's from and sells fruit.
Yeah.
Hope she died in the dust storm. She stinks. No,
Him
but
and Anakin or her and Anakin have that one conversation.
the Greedo thing is bad. Fuck, was there what was there? I had one more. Oh, we talked about it before, not to go all like woke Star Wars, but then the Nemodian characters are they're just unbelievable.
It the voices they do are almost shocking in hindsight. It's almost shocking that, George, who is from everything I've heard about the guy, pretty liberal. I'm shocked he hasn't gone back and made a special edition change where he just takes, like, the racist voices out of the movie.
It's you can't unsee it. When someone says that it's like it's a racist character of Asian people, you see it and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, and I said to
Again,
you, I
not
was
not to
sitting
get
in my
all like woke
theater.
Star
Yeah, not
Wars.
not trying to get woke, but, like, it's pretty undeniable. I was sitting in a theater with, like, 6, maybe 8 Asian people. It was all Asian people in my theater, and they were loving it, but I felt like the Jesse Pinkman gif where he's, like, sipping the water, like, I hope it's okay that I'm here for this. I felt just
It's
uncomfortable just being there.
it's so they're in the Acolyte.
The Nemodians? Like, wait,
Nemodians are in the Acolyte,
not
yeah.
like but not these ones. They don't have crazy
Correct,
lifespans like
yeah.
that, right?
Yeah. And there I like that it like I like the idea of like this like alien species that is like they're just scumbags, like pieces of
Yeah, I like
shit.
that. Yeah.
But it will always make me just go, "Oh my god." Like I'm surprised it's one of those things where like the think piece if it came out today would be even crazier. You're like, "Holy
Yeah.
shit."
And Watto, I mean, oh my god,
People say the same
if
about
they
Jar
made
Jar.
Watto today. Yeah. Jar Jar, like, it I don't know. I feel like Jar Jar isn't as on the nose. Maybe I'm crazy for saying that. Maybe I'm not the right guy to say that, But the other two feel like, oh my God, this is like a direct caricature of how people make fun of certain people. Jar Jar, I'm like, I could see it in some scenes, and other scenes, I'm like, I don't know, he just seems like a crazy
Yeah,
alien.
no, I get that. I mean, I think it's just like a wacky, goofy. I think the whole like Gungan species is, and I also say this too. I gotta be honest. I'm not even sure Jar Jar is the most annoying of the Gungans.
Who the general guy is more annoying?
He's pretty bad.
He's not as bad as Jar Jar. I like Jar Jar, but I mean, Jar Jar's got some of those scenes where you're like, all right, tone it down, Jar Jar. And in the words of Rocket Raccoon, it's a bit much.
Jar Jar's bad. Boss Nass is really bad.
Boss Nass is horrible.
Like
But you know what? That was one of the only like out loud theater wide laughs among the 8 people in my theater was Boss Nass doing his little, you know, I'm going crazy like that. And everything is bomb bad with him. Every fucking other word out of Boss Nass's mouth is bomb bad. You are bomb bad general. Oh, you are bomb bad band. Like everything.
Captain Tarples, that's the other Gungan.
Sounds like George had carpal tunnel while writing the script and was like, I could work that in. Carpal tunnel. That kind of sounds like an alien name.
Oh,
George, yeah, him. Imagine being the first person to read the loose leaf script that George wrote this on, and just reading those long scenes of bomb bad this, bomb bad that, and being like, I guess he's a genius. He made the first 3, right? Like,
I wonder if he wanted to make a different language, and he's like, I don't have the energy for this. Like,
you thought that would be a good idea to make it like, yeah, the next level of craziness for the franchise, but.
By the way, the other Antilles
I do.
The other Antilles that I mentioned was at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
Not related to Wedge though, which is a little odd, but
just same last name. They're like
apparently
that's
not related to
the galaxy.
That's been one of those like weird things I've always been confused why they did that.
Yeah, it's strange. I like them bringing Wedge back in Rise of Skywalker. I know you mentioned it as a not good movie, but I like that moment. It's weird that he's in the Millennium Falcon, but I like that moment.
He is, yeah. No, it is really weird. He's like, hey, it's what's Ewan McGregor's uncle.
Yeah, who told him not to take this role. He's like, I don't think that's a good idea for you.
And Antilles at the end of Revenge of the Sith, that's the same guy who gives Leia the plans in Rogue One. He's the one who gets choked by Vader in the beginning of A New Hope.
Oh, wait, that's supposed to all be the same guy?
Yeah, so I don't, did they say Antilles' name in A New Hope? Like, they could have just named it something different, right?
Yeah.
Weird.
It's
confusing.
Yeah. It's just Johnson. You know, it's a common name out in the galaxy. A bunch of
Antilles.
Yeah,
that is. That's their Smith, Antilles.
yeah. All right. Before we finish this up, some people were asking us to comment on The Bad Batch, and I don't think Clem watched it. You did watch The Bad Batch. I thought it was a interesting series. Like, I thought the first season was pretty good. I thought the second season had lulls, like a lot of lulls, but wound up finishing pretty good. And then I thought pretty much all of season 3 was really good. I liked all of the like Project Necromancer. It felt less like mission of the week in season 3.
Yeah.
And more just like, we're actually going to advance the story, tell you what's happening with Omega. You get the stakes after Tech dies in season 2 of like, all right, they're like going to kill off characters in this show. And they pretty much delivered on that. They killed off Hemlock, the villain of the whole series. They brought back the Zillo Beast, which people loved from the Clone Wars, that episode where it like goes over Coruscant like it's fucking Godzilla. You get a cool epilogue, which the Clone Wars also gave us, like a nice the Vader epilogue. Seeing the old clones in this, seeing adult Omega in this, I thought that was cool. And then you get answers, at least as far as like, okay, why did they shut down the cloning program? Well, because Tarkin wanted to push it aside for the Death Star. And
which I like. I like that they did like Stardust.
All of that was good.
Connected to Rogue One and Andor. Like, I do like that a lot. Like, that was kind of my thing. I was like, where is, so when they first came out with this show, remember the idea, and it's never as crazy of a theory as people think, but people were like is Omega like Anakin, you know, like the first attempt at Anakin. Remember that? It was like crazy theories, like what could she, maybe she's Palpatine, really, you know, right? Like bullshit like that.
Snoke. So there's a lot of like, she could be Snoke. They were experimenting on clones. Maybe her face changed. Yeah.
Right. No, so I'm glad they didn't do any of that shit, and they developed the characters well into something different. Um, so no, I did like I liked how it ties into the end of prequel-y things that we have right now. Because I will say Andor stuff is my favorite stuff. That I it's tough for me to pick between Andor and Mandalorian. Is tough. 'Cause I didn't love the last season of Mandalorian as much as the first two,
Yeah.
but Andor is pretty unbelievable. Star Wars, like it's amazing TV. So
And
I
the way
like
Tony
anything tying into
Gilroy's
that.
talking about season 2 is making me so excited. He's like season 2 is my greatest work. It's the most important thing I've ever done. And Tony Gilroy isn't one of these like, studio like I'm a Star Wars guy, nerd. Like he's not that. He's kind of like a filmmaker type who is doing Star Wars and using it as a medium to tell his stories and stuff. I don't think he would be hyping it up just for the sake of like hyping Star Wars fans. I think
I
he
rewatched Rogue
very
One
passionately
recently.
cares about it.
Oh no, for sure, I agree completely. I know that I trust him on this one for sure.
Yes.
I rewatched Rogue One recently, and Rogue One has its faults. Like there are a lot of issues with Rogue One, where I think it just kind of gets boring, and like it's just kind of lifeless in some spots. But there are some things that I'm excited to see in the next season of Andor that we saw, and like I'm excited for K2SO
So excited for
and
him. I was
Cassian to
gonna
be
say that's
friends.
almost like you could say it's an issue with Rogue One when everyone dies at the end. Spoilers for Rogue One. He's the death that is like it hits you the hardest every time. K2SO, like the robot, is the one where you're like, oh man, like, and then you watch Cassian and Jin die on the beach, and it's sad, but it's not like it doesn't pull at your heartstrings like the fucking robot did, and that's maybe an issue with the movie.
And and you're gonna so it ties right into Rogue One. So you're gonna see a lot of Rebel stuff start to pop up in this next one, which I think is very exciting. Like there's so many inner workings and like adult themes here for Star
Yeah.
Wars that I just really enjoy. Like it's funny because I just said like that stuff's boring in Phantom Menace, but that's because it doesn't play out over 12 episodes. Like it's
Mhm.
not this long dramatic story. It's this short 2.5 hour movie and it's bogged down by it. We're
And it's
like,
a half step. It's a half measure of like, is this for kids? Is this for adults?
right.
Andor's like, this is for adults. We're treating you like you're a smart audience.
Exactly. And it plays out perfectly. Like, and there's just my thing is I want parts of Star Wars, and that's why I've always been a Last Jedi fan, is I like when they move in different directions. I like that they
Yes,
cut the
agreed.
puppet master strings and then they put the fucking strings back on for Revenge of the Sith or for Return of the
For
Jedi
Rise of
or
Skywalker.
whatever. Rise of
Rise of
Skywalker, I got there
Rise of
eventually.
Skywalker,
But
yeah.
that's like that's why I like Andor. It's like you're seeing things.
Mhm,
I love seeing these local police officers basically in Star Wars. Like I think
mhm.
it's fascinating to watch.
Well, kind of a good transition. We also gotta look at the Acolyte after the Phantom Menace
Yeah.
re-release. How do you feel about the Acolyte? Because going into this show, I'll be honest, I'm excited for it. High Republic era, seeing a new era we've never seen in Star Wars. I'm excited for it. I thought the clip looked cool. I thought it looked Matrix inspired, which I don't know what the chicken or the egg came first with like Trinity being in the show and the show's action looking like the Matrix. But then I hear stuff like they're bringing in light whips from canon and legends. And light whips have existed for decades in legends, but they're basically if a lightsaber was flaccid, if it was a
Yep.
fucking whip. That's the sort of thing that worries me because I go, I don't care. I like when you make Star Wars weird and wacky, but I know a large portion of the fan base is just going to be pissed off about that instantly. And they're going to go, Disney's ruining Star Wars. So like, are you bought into this being a great show? Because this could be like one step forward before Andor season 2, or this could be one step back before Andor season 2 for
I'm
Star
not
Wars.
bought into it being a great show. I don't know if it will be. If you told me I had to pick one side or the other, I'd say I don't think it's going to be a great show.
Damn.
And that's very negative thinking, but I need to see the proof first. I want it to be good. I'm very excited to watch. I like the premise. The trailers have been good. There've been a couple tough line deliveries in the trailer that worry me. I'm worried about like the script writing and acting because Boba Fett was hamstrung by that. Oh my god, it was so
Yeah.
corny. It had some okay moments, which was just the episode of The Mandalorian they put in the middle of it.
That was awesome.
Obi-Wan had some stuff I liked. I liked the Obi-Wan probably more than most, but Obi-Wan was tough in some spots. I liked
Agreed.
Ahsoka.
Loved
Um,
Ahsoka.
I
Yeah.
liked Ahsoka. So I guess my concern is I worry about if it becomes too corny and stupid, which is very possible when there's that many lightsabers and Jedi things. Like
Yeah.
the more lightsaber and Jedi stuff, sometimes it becomes overkill, and
We
you're
got
just like,
Jedi
this,
Wookiees, we got
yeah,
Jedi
you're like,
aliens,
this is
which,
kind of
like,
tough. But I hope it's good though.
sounds cool. Yeah, on paper, you say Jedi Wookiee, sounds very cool.
It looks
I
like
know in Star Wars, it doesn't always work out like that.
Andor looks very lived in and very real, while a lot of the other ones looked very much like they're in the volume. And the volume is
Yeah,
a very cool tool that some shows have used well. First 2 seasons of Mando, people didn't know what the fucking volume was. They were like, "Holy shit, that
yeah.
wasn't real." Where Obi-Wan, there are times you're like, "Damn, this looks like this was filmed." Like it just looked weird. It felt small. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but Andor just felt expansive and big. And the Acolyte, a lot of the trailers, like it does feel big.
They did say, which is funny, that, like you said, when they used the volume for The Mandalorian, it was like, "This is groundbreaking technology. Favreau's done it again." And the Acolyte, they came out and they were like, "We just wanna let everyone know we didn't use the volume at all. 0 scenes in the Acolyte used the volume." It's like, "Oh, you're telling people that it's like a warning now? That, like, don't worry, we didn't even touch that technology?" That's weird.
Yeah, I guess my thing with that is that use it if it can help extend certain scenes, but I think Star Wars part of it's like they're kind of forgetting what ruined it for people with the prequels and Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith are a great example. Is they just looked off. Like, it just something felt and looked
Yeah,
wrong, and I think that is so and there are people who say, like, "Oh, I don't notice that thing in movies," but I think even if you don't, I think you subliminally notice it. Like,
I
something
think so
in,
too.
like, the subliminal part of your mind is like, "Fuck, that doesn't look right." And
Yeah.
I just hope that they continue to go further away from that, because the more real shit looks, the more it looks like the thing that we like, which is which is fine. See, that's where, like, I'm okay with people saying, like, I get it. You didn't like Last Jedi. This is not you. I'm talking about people who
Yep.
don't like it. You like because you wanted Luke, or Force Awakens, you wanted Luke and Leia. You want stuff that you know already. For me, that's not always the case. But if there's one thing that is I want, if there's one thing I want that I know, it's the look and feel, which that's just a broad thing. At least
Yep.
make it look and feel like Star Wars. That's my
Definitely, and that's,
that's
like,
my hope. I hope it's
honestly,
good. I really do.
to bring it back to the Phantom Menace, that's, like, a big part of the reason why I think I still like the movie, is the look and feel of it bring me back to seeing it for the first time. They bring me back to playing with the toys, and at least that movie had amazing toys and merchandise and stuff,
Mhm.
because the look and feel, even though it didn't look and feel like the Star Wars people knew, it has a distinct look and feel that people now associate with the prequels and feel so nostalgic about. People feel nostalgic about the marketing stuff that we talked about in this podcast. People get nostalgic about the way toy shelves looked in Toys R Us, just with the display
Mhm.
setup and stuff. And that's a big part of what George Lucas was great at, to be honest. He was great at the world building, he was great at the ideas, and he's probably better off
It
letting
still
other
feels like
people
Star Wars.
execute the ideas. Yeah,
Yeah, it's still, which I'm not saying Attack of the Clones Revenge of the Sith don't, but they start to feel like they're going away. They start to feel like you're getting away from it a little bit, which,
he at least, like,
you know,
anchored the prequel aesthetic here, and those play off of what he started here.
I don't know where he got lost in the next two, but he got lost.
He got lost quick, and
He got
we
lost.
were
He got
talking
lost
to
in the tech.
Clemmer
He got
about it.
lost in the tech.
We were talking to Clemmer about it on the long take, and Clemmer had such a funny, like, take, because he was obviously an adult for Phantom Menace. So he said he
Mhm.
was, like, disappointed by that, but he was kinda like, "All right." It's like when your team is, like, down at halftime, but you're like, "We can come back from this. I think it's not out of the range of coming back yet." And then he's like, as soon as Clone Wars or Attack of the Clones started, he was like, "Oh, no, we're done. It's over."
People were out of the title of Phantom Menace. That's the other thing. Like that, I don't remember at all because I was
The
just too young.
title?
But when people heard the title Phantom Menace, they're like, "What the fuck?" They're like, "What is the Phantom? Like, what is that?" So
Oh,
people
damn, I
hated it from
love
the
the
jump
title. That's
because it just
crazy, yeah.
sounded stupid.
Although I think it's funny when people say you could swap this and Rise of Skywalker and they would make a little more sense. Like the first one being called The Rise of Skywalker and the movie where the Phantom Menace is actually behind it all and comes back. It could work.
People say you could swap all the titles, right?
You
Like
could
all the
swap a
titles.
lot of them and a lot of them work. Yeah, it's weird. All right, that was our look back at the Phantom Menace 25th anniversary special podcast. Hopefully next year on May the 4th, they do put out Revenge of the Sith back at theaters. I would love that. Because like Jeff said, I'll never take for granted a Star Wars movie in theaters.
Never
Just
take
being
for
able to
granted
go
seeing
there.
those big title, the big
A long
titles.
time ago, Galaxy
Yeah.
Far, Far Away. Like, come on, that's the best. Even in my theater at 10 a.m. with like me and 8 people in it, people started giving it the little clap when that came
Yep,
up.
same here.
People are just
Yep.
stoked, you know? All right, we will talk to you later. Hopefully for more Star Wars stuff soon.